It's incredibly annoying to see people equate Spanish with Mexican or confuse Mexican with Spanish, especially when folks refer to Mexicans as Spanish people. That's the worst. But really, what I'm talking about here is um, this idea that if you're Mexican, you're somehow related to Spain at all. The language Spanish, the culture from Spain, Latin based, Roman ultimately. Um, None of these things are actually Mexican. The name in itself is not at all a Spanish word, Mexican. Mexico comes from Mexica, which is a Nahuatl word, not Spanish. It's an indigenous word. The culture in Mexico outside of the major city centers is very indigenous and rural indigenous. We're talking still tribal, traditional, continuing their languages. Lots of these communities, Spanish isn't even spoken, nor Portuguese, nor any other European language. You can be Mexican and not speak Spanish. In fact, you're probably more Mexican if you don't speak Spanish, but instead speak an indigenous language, such as Mexicano, Mexicano, whatever, which is actually Aztec, aka Nahuatl. So, if you really want to claim Mexican identity, it's not in all these Spanish influences or heritages or whatnot. It's in learning the indigenous languages, trying to ingratiate yourself into indigenous cultures if you're not naturally a part of them, native. Um, Learning Spanish isn't going to make you. I see a lot of videos where people think that going to Mexico and learning Spanish is going to make them somehow Mexican or more a part of the culture there. And that's just not true. Actually, you're doing nothing different than any other colonizer would do. So you're just another jerk. Learning Spanish will make your life easier, but it does nothing for indigenous people, and it doesn't show any real commitment to the real Mexico or Mexicans, which are the brown-skinned indigenous people and their descendants. So stop equating Mexico with Spain. Stop equating Spanish with Mexicans. They're not the same, and by Spanish I include Hispanic, Latino, etc. None of these identities have anything to do with traditional indigenous people. And the whole mestizaje thing and mixing and just thinking that you can have it both ways isn't really it's not a reality. It's cultural erasure. All right, that's all.